Morning, good morning. Welcome to the Sick of This Show with Nick and our special guest, Wendy Parker, today, as we are trucking along. Uh, mm, it's going to be a good one. We're talking about the trucking industry today, and the transportation industry, maybe in general,
Sure.
because they go quite hand in hand with each other. And Wendy has a wealth of experience and knowledge. That I'd love to be able to tap into. And so, welcome, Wendy. Do you mind introducing yourself to everyone as I pull up the live chat on my side, and
Sure.
we'll jump into it.
For sure. I'm Wendy Parker. I'm a writer here on Substack now. I did ride in my husband's truck. I have never been a driver, but I had the unique experience of riding along with a very experienced driver who did multiple versions of trucking. Trucking has a lot of diversity, and I was able to write about it. I wrote for two trucking magazines. The first one was Overdrive Magazine. And if you're familiar with trucking, or as I learned later, if you've been in the pen, you might have read Overdrive because it's one of the few magazines that they allow within the penitentiaries because they don't advertise drugs or alcohol or anything like that. But that's not their claim to fame. It's the oldest trucking magazine um, in print. Unfortunately, I don't think they print anymore, but I did write for the other trucking magazine, which is also an advocacy organization for owner operators. And you might be familiar with OIDA, OOIDA, Owner Operator Independent Drivers Association. Their magazine is still in print. They advocate, they get people in the streets, they have lobbyists, um, you know, they, they have their own issues. But they do, they do good work. They've done some
Yeah.
good work.
Well,
So
amazing. Thank you for introducing yourself, and good morning, everyone, as you come on in still. Um, Wendy and I, before the show, were talking about what we might want to get into in terms of the trucking industry and from her experiences and what she's seen and what she's lived through and some of the changes that may be coming and are already being pushed, such things as autonomous semi trucks, truck trains, fleets that can auto drive on their own, and how we're not really ready for it because we don't have the infrastructure in place. So, thank you,
that's
Wendy, for
true.
introducing yourself. And I also, surprise topic I want to do on this because it's something that I've had an unfortunate experience hearing and knowing someone who has had to say no to one of these people is the over the road um, rest stops where prostitution is still an issue.
Yeah.
And
We did a lot of work with Truckers Against Trafficking. That
okay,
is a very important organization. If you are not familiar with it, please become familiar with it. They do beautiful work. And yes, that is an issue. It's not something that I saw commonly, but they don't usually approach trucks that have, a man and a woman in them. And
yeah,
but my husband, he's a 2 million miler. I was wrong. He has done 2 million miles, not one. And so
that's a lot of miles.
he did many without me. I don't know how many I did. It was probably close to 1 million. It was a lot. And it was a grueling lifestyle. I mean, the people who are out there that are doing it and doing it right are living very difficult, at this point. The thing about trucking is it's been 7 years since I wrote about trucking or was in a truck, and I still follow all of my, old magazines. And the thing about trucking is things rarely change for the benefit of the driver. Very rarely. It just doesn't happen. And one of the things I'd like to talk about is the
Yeah.
fact that trucking needs to get cohesive. It is a highly conservative group of people. However, they're not um they're not dumb. I know a lot of people are you dumb truckers and da da da.
Oh
They
no, they're
pay
not.
attention. And you have to be reminded that they have immense amounts of time to listen to podcasts or to gather information or to just mull over things. They're deep thinkers. I mean,
Yeah.
very deep. We should very much tap into that and try to, you know, make them understand the power they have. Because you and I both know, and I don't know if anyone not affiliated with trucking knows, you have 3 days if the trucks stop. You have 3 days, and everything in your town is gonna be gone. The fuel, the food, anything that comes on a truck, and you and I both know, and it's one of my favorite sayings, everything comes on a truck.
Yeah.
We use the same transportation methods we have used for 100 years in America to move the bulk of our freight, and it is on wheels.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something people forget is the trucking industry is literally the backbone of America at the moment.
Mm,
It's the food bone
absolutely.
of America, and it's
Yes.
the fuel bone of America. It is literally keeping America running.
Right.
And so there
You
was a question in the chat. I wanted to ask you about this. Um, is Rick Herbst asked, sorry, Rick, if I got your last name wrong. Um, is you said something about being cohesive for truckers. Is cohesive to achieve what big ticket goals? And so that's a great question. Is what are the
It's a
goals
great question.
of the trucking industry and those who actually really want to do something positive for it and not like gut it and destroy it?
So that again is a huge problem because you will get together so we did a lot of work on parking laws and just very basic ways to live out there and be more comfortable to improve the lifestyle, to improve the health, that increases the length of amount of time people are going to stay in a truck. And it's very basic things you try to get them together on, and everybody's all together at once. And then they start, adding things. They can't stay focused on just one issue. There are a multitude of issues. But and generally, and I say they're very conservative, generally those issues stem from the same thing all of the issues stem from. Some like Democratic policies and some like Republican policies, and they will not mend. And
Yeah.
until they do, it's going to continue. It was 1974 was the last time there was a strike, a trucking strike, and it has. And I mean, I was what 6 years old then. It's been forever. They they have so much power and they just won't take it. And now, you have this addition of an abundance of immigrant drivers that aren't traditionally drivers. There's a huge issue about the language thing. And
Yep.
I'm going to say something that's probably not going to be very popular, but you
Truth
might agree
doesn't
with
have
me.
to be popular.
So, well, because it sounds very racist, but it's not.
Mhm.
I don't know. Generally, that means I'm going to say something racist, right? So
And if you do,
the
I'll push
language,
back on it and we'll talk through it because that's what we're about here. Because
well, good
that's the
because
whole thing is
because I
Wendy's not a racist.
I'm
We need to
I'm
talk the
curious
issues. Yeah.
curious about how other drivers, people who've been on the
Yeah.
road, feel about this. Um, the language thing is a big deal.
Yeah.
You really do need to be able to speak and read to a degree of fluency to drive a vehicle that weighs 80,000 pounds.
Yeah.
It just makes sense. And I know that a lot of people are super mad about the laws, about you have to be able to speak English, and the problem with that is that a lot of those laws are being misused to do, real messed up things, to profile and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The basic proficiency in English should come along with the training. And I'm not talking about flashcards because we've watched them. This is a stop sign, STOP, stop. But if you can't converse
Yes.
with emergency people, if you can't converse with a law officer, if you can't converse with your dispatcher in a
Yeah.
manner that, you are really understanding what's going on, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And it
So,
bothered me for a long time because a lot of people are so fucking mad about it. And I get that, but I want you to understand why, you know?
so first off, I don't think you had to apologize ahead of time for anything because that wasn't racist in any way, at least to me. I think like people are weighing in the chat, and what you said is true. Is it's a proficiency for safety, and
Right.
I'm not. And the thing is, I think people are mad about it because right wing people frame things in really, really shitty ways at all times. It's not conservative, it's right wing. It's like fundamentalist right wings can do things or frame things in shitty ways. They take good ideas and they make them shitty. Conservatives don't. Like conservative values and conservative ideals, like conserving or preservation is what the root of conserve is. Like to be a conservative, you should be a conservationist. You should want to conserve. And so to conserve the trucking industry and safety, to ensure that there's safety on the road, safety, like Wendy said, with your dispatcher, with the people you're working with. What happens if you have a flat tire and you need to call a tow truck and you cannot talk to your dispatcher? You're stuck. What happens if you hit someone and get into an accident? Trucks are really dangerous. One of the things people forget is that semi trucks run on air brakes and not disc brakes. And air brakes take a second or about a split second to engage. And if a trucker isn't paying attention, doesn't have the right training, doesn't understand the terms that are being used in the training to talk about why you have to start braking 100 yards or 300 yards back so that you're not going to hit someone, or how come you have to be so far apart, or why the hours in the system are the way they are. Or when you get to a stop, how are you going to unload shit if you can't talk to the dispatcher?
That's another
Like,
issue. That's a big issue. I mean, you know as well as I do. You don't I think people have this misconception that you get there with your truck, you pull in, they unload you. That's bullshit.
yeah,
Generally, they send you to a cage somewhere, treat you like an animal for about, however long
yeah,
they feel, and then allow you to come in to have the truck unloaded. When in fact, you are bringing them what they fucking need.
yeah. So,
Walmart, we quit doing Walmart
oh,
because
Walmart's
people would
terrible.
sit in Walmart cages for 12 hours, and you
The
are
Kroger,
literally
like
in like a fenced in area.
like Kroger is just as bad too. Like
They
all
are
the big food places and things, they're just as bad.
Safeway.
It's a cake.
Oh my
Oh, we
god,
used to pick up from Safeway. We used to, so where my experience comes in from this too is why I can talk about this with experiences. I was
there's
a
a
local,
trucker behind me, you guys. FY,
that's
say
a
hi,
real life
babe.
trucker right there, 2 million miler right there.
Nick worked for OD, babe. He's got a little heaps.
Thanks, me too. Um,
Pull,
me
pull a
too.
wiggle wagons. Did you pull wiggle wagons doubles?
Yeah, I did. I did. So
I'm
what
sorry, I
I
didn't
did,
mean to interrupt your thought.
no, you're fine. I love questions about it. So it's been a long time since I've talked on the trucking industry. So I used to do local P and pickup and delivery for Old Dominion, in Washington State in the Seattle area. So city and uh, delivery driving in shitty, shitty conditions. Um, and I would do long haul routes, occasionally I would pull doubles for those, where you have two of the baby trailers behind you and they fucking suck and they just wobble. And we were
We
right
call
near
them wiggle
Oregon.
wagons.
Well, the worst is Oregon lets triples,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they're even fucking
dangerous.
scarier, because you have three trailers behind you. Um,
Ohio has triples on the turnpike. You can do
that's
triples
scary
on
as
the
shit.
turnpike.
That's scary as shit. Like, ugh,
Who?
yeah,
Oh yeah, New York will let you do double 53s.
that's
Double
dangerous as fuck. Like, so just think about it, guys. We're talking 53 feet for the trailer itself, plus about 10 to 15 feet for um,
coupling.
coupling, and then plus another 53 feet, plus another five-ish feet for a dolly, which goes between the back of your first trailer and between your second trailer where you hook up onto. And so that's two pivot points right on top of each other, and you're doing 53 feet, which comes out to 106 fucking feet of trailer, plus the 15 feet, plus the 5 feet, plus another 20 feet or more for your truck itself. So you're almost at 150 feet for a fucking vehicle.
It's crazy.
And
It's
if you get hit with
crazy.
a gust of wind that is just a little too strong, you're going to flip. You could
Oh
flip,
yeah.
and they do it all the time. It's unsafe, but we have to do it because there's not a lot of truckers out there, and it's getting worse.
By their own fault, by the companies who are doing this is that
Yeah,
because who wants to pay two truckers? You don't get paid anymore to do doubles.
no,
You get paid the same.
yeah,
So it's like having two truckers for the price of one.
yeah, and We haven't even gotten into the next step of all of this is what the replacement is for truckers is truck trains. Like these 53 doubles are really like the first progress step, or triples are really old first progress steps for truck trains. It's literal trains of trucks that are semi-autonomous with each other, lining up one by one behind each other on a computer program where you could probably get like 5, 10 trucks behind you in a line. Volvo
I
is
think they
working on
said
it.
up to 8 was going to be their max to
That's
start.
scary as fuck. And if you have to think about it. So eight semi trucks with 53-foot trailers tagging along with each other in one giant train, moving as a unit across the interstates.
I mean,
We
just the
we don't even
implications
have
of
we don't even
yeah,
have the infrastructure to manage our current trucks. How are we going to do that? We don't have roads that are dedicated for trucks. Like that's what we need, but we're not ready, but they're going to
no.
push it. So, what are your thoughts on that, Wendy? I introduced
Well,
a
I
big,
mean,
broad topic, but what are your thoughts there?
just the implications of having 8 trucks that don't split apart because you know as well as I do traffic moves, it's constant.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter where you're at, you're going to have to get out of someone's way or they're going to have to get out of yours. It has a lot to do with are they going to govern them? Where are they going to run them? I mean, this stuff, these things they are not considering. Not to mention the fact that the technology is poor at
Yeah,
best for this.
yeah,
And they call them autonomous. However, the ones that were running when I was doing stories on it still had people in them. You know, so
hmm
it's not autonomous. It's driver assisted is the
yeah.
thing. But you go back to the infrastructure. There is no place. I mean, Wyoming maybe where there's nothing for 150 damn miles, but there's no place where you're going to need 8 trucks full of shit to go to one spot
Nope.
that you can maneuver that in. You just
Yeah.
can't.
And even if they're going to different spots, that means there still has to. Here's the thing is if they're going to different spots in that train, there has to be a driver for each truck because
Right,
those trucks will then have to break out of the
right.
train, move in, and then have another one autonomously enter at some point, probably from the on ramp. That would be like an ideal situation. But somebody said it in the chat. Craig said it last in the chat is that's what we have ground freight for. That's what we have freight
Exactly.
trains for. So, Michael, I want to ask this because it popped into my mind when Craig brought that up is what do you think would be a better option? Is autonomous truck trains or modifying and updating the rail infrastructure to accommodate smart rail freight,
Well, I mean,
or a
that's just a
combination of
matter
both?
of common sense. If you have something that is attached to a rail, you can control it a lot better. Now, I'm not saying it would be overall safer, but it would certainly make me feel better to know that it's attached to a rail. If you've got something that, first of all, doesn't have a very good infrastructure at all to run on, and second of all, doesn't know the difference between a styrofoam cooler and a kid running out in the road, then I'm not feeling it. You know, I, I'm a big fan of trains. I don't know. I mean, I know that our I don't know as much as I should about rail freight because I was, steep deep in the trucking.
Yeah,
But I do know that he ran frames for Ford. He also ran frames for International. FYI, you guys, these people are saying, "Oh, we do all this in America." They don't. They paint them down in Mexico. He had a year of damn fine niche business in which he took frames from Kentucky to Laredo and brought painted ones back. So, the rail system was significant in that it was unloaded into rails and then it went, wherever it had to go. Detroit, we'd pick them up or we'd start in Detroit. There's very, there's a few places where you go and that's what you do. And that business right there, I mean, just that alone, you couldn't even really train that for, with even though everybody's hauling the same things and they generally all stayed together. But you still had the ability for everyone to be,
yeah,
able to move on their own. So absolutely, I believe that upgrading the rail system is probably a better idea. I'm more concerned about, um, where we're hauling hazardous waste and stuff, because clearly the rail system is not safe for that either. But
no,
honestly, is the highway? I mean, you would shit your pants. I mean, well, you wouldn't, but so you guys would shit your pants to know what's rolling around in some of them trucks. I mean,
yeah. Like most people don't know what those hazard signs actually mean inside some of those trucks. Like you're
yeah, the flappers.
Oh, yeah, like the placards on trucks, it's if you wanna ruin your day on which trucks to be near, start figuring out what placards means and you'll understand why certain trucks do not go through tunnels and are not allowed to go through tunnels. Because if they do and they accidentally blow up, the whole damn tunnel blows up too.
Yeah,
Um,
because they
so
explode.
yeah, explosives. And so I started my career actually as a propane truck driver.
Woo, scary guy.
Yeah, talk about sketchy and scary. And so, but once I got out of propane, it was a very quick stint because I realized through my training that this was not for me. I did not want to do propane very long. But I got into the P&D stuff, the pickup and delivery. And one of the places that we used to deliver to is the Port of Seattle or the Port of Tacoma
So
in
you had to have your
Washington.
twig.
So I have my TWIC, which allows you. It's a transportation card that allows you to get access to ports, and to be able to deliver freight to ports. And you have to have all sorts of training and certifications. You have to have your hazardous
Background check.
certification,
Big background
background
check.
check. Like it took a while for my background check to come back because I have a big old spot in my background check that's just like black lines because of my military career. Um,
Mm,
because of what I did in the army not going to release what I did. So
sure.
background checks always take long for me. It took me 2 months to get an Old Dominion because I'd just gotten out of the army and I still had a security clearance and they couldn't do a background check. And it took them 2 months to figure out how to do it and get enough information. Um, so that I could get in. That's why I
That's so
worked as a propane
crazy.
driver. Yeah, it's nuts. But like the thing that I want to loop it back to one of the earlier points you made about like the language barriers is the ports are some of the largest places where you find the heaviest immigrant driving populations. In Seattle, it was a lot of people from India,
Hmm.
um, or Asia in general, because Seattle's one of the main ports that comes from, or is one of the main Asian Pacific ports that we do. Like, it's one of the largest ports in the world, and at least in the country, and a lot of freight goes through there, and most of those folks don't always understand English, or a lot of those folks don't always understand English. Somebody made a good point is two languages, like we should be, instead of pushing for just English as a you need to know English because of a safety thing. And that's the framing. There's a difference between the way I just said that than like right wing, like far right people do. Is I don't want to push people out of the, exactly. Right. I don't want to push people out of the trucking industry. I want to make them safer. I want to make the roads safer. Like, I've nearly died a couple times because of tractor trailers. We should be making sure that they're safer. Um, and so the language barrier is a big thing, but like at the ports, this is really where the trucking and train industry merge because you unload half your freight onto either trains or
Yeah.
cranes.
Yep.
And this is really where I think, if we want to talk about like a broken industry, is how broken that part of like port work is because it's just small shipments like container hauling. That's all you pretty much do if you're not a pickup and delivery guy going to ports is you haul containers from one part of the port to the next.
Yep.
You get paid like dirt and you don't speak English
Right.
most of the time. Is this one of the areas where we could influence more positive change in that we work to say ensure that there's a bilingual setup, but primarily focused towards English as a path to learning? Like you said, in the CDL training itself, do you think more, could you talk more on that, on how you think that could be integrated
It
into, say, a training program?
it absolutely could be if we would regulate our training programs. But you know as well as I do, we've got 3-day CDLs out there. And they're being sold with a lady with big boobs. It's not. They don't care. They teach you how to pass a test. It also comes down to whether or not the company wants to invest the extra time that it's going to take, because clearly they can do it now and they're
Yeah,
getting away with it. And they're going to continue to get away with it regardless, because there will always be someone to fill that seat. There's always someone desperate. Always. And they create that on their own as an industry by this churn and their inability to get comprehensive, nationally recognized training. It's
yeah,
different everywhere you go.
yeah,
You don't get a national training curriculum. There are some
yeah.
very specific things that need to be addressed about a lot of language, and I'm not saying that, I mean, if you're going across the border and you're an American, you should probably have a working,
Knowledge of Spanish.
right. I'm just saying, if you don't, you can get a lot
Yeah,
more
it only
trouble down there than you can up here.
Yeah, it only makes sense, right? If you're working with people who
Right.
speak that language, you also want to speak that language
But
because
I
then you
don't
can
I
interact with them.
Right. But I don't know that you'll get that investment as long as we don't have a national standard. And I don't think we're going to get a national standard on that. You do see that they're busting companies. They busted a couple of trucking CDL companies that are they're giving CDLs to people they shouldn't.
Yeah,
And, but it's few and far between. The money generated is far too much. It doesn't offset the money that they have to pay in fines. Or did I make sense
yeah,
there? Did I say
yeah,
that backwards? Anyway,
yeah. So
it's
they
just like
make they make enough to pay the fines that the fines are just the cost of doing business. It's like
right.
Fox News after they lied the defamation suit about Dominion voting machines. It's just a cost of business for them.
Sure, this is what we do. Um, I would love to see that. I don't know that
Yeah,
I'll see it in my lifetime. I know that there are people working for it, but again, Truckers are very independently minded people for the most part. They don't want the government telling them what to do.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, trucking is more mandated than nursing homes. I mean, it really is. So it's a it's an education issue. It is
Yeah.
100% an education issue. It can't you can't really take it to anything else. You can vote it, you can talk about it, but until you educate it and make it part of the curriculum that is required for them to obtain that license, which those licenses, you know as well as I do, are golden.
Yeah.
You can do more than drive a truck with a CDL.
Yep.
It's a
I
very
lost mine.
profitable thing to know how to do.
Well, I didn't lose mine. I let mine lapse because they're expensive as shit to maintain too. Like
They are.
at least here in Arkansas, it was like 200 something bucks just to renew the license. And
That's about par.
that's a
And you have to pay for your physical.
yep, and it's restrictive. That's a restrictive thing that discourages people from staying in. But I want to talk about the churn and burn a little bit because that's a fun
Sure.
piece of the puzzle in all of this is the trucking industry, like you said, is a churn and burn industry in a lot of ways, is they don't look for longevity and they don't
Right.
encourage longevity. Can you talk about some of the companies? I'll name at least one that I know is pretty ruthless for it is Swift.
Well, Swift is the best known because they have the most trucks on the road.
Yeah.
Um,
There's also
and the Moyes
another
brothers are not good people.
there's another one that I know that I was warned against trying to, I think it was Wagner. Are they?
I'm not as familiar with Wagner because I focused a lot on Swift
Yeah.
because, again, of the education issues. And my husband started at Swift. He had to. He had a CDL, but he didn't have any experience. And that's another issue. If you don't have practical experience on the road, you're not going to get in with a reputable company because they can't afford to insure you until you have X amount of time on the road as a driver. And in order to get that time, you have to make shit. I mean, he was making 24 cents a mile. Now
Yeah.
imagine that. Just imagine that.
Yeah. And like, think about how small of an amount that is. You have to go about just over 4 miles, almost five, to make $1.
$1.
And if you're sitting in traffic, you're not
You
making
ain't
money.
making no money.
If you're sitting in the pen all fucking day for 12 hours or longer, waiting for them to either just get you a truck or fill up your truck, you're not making any money. You're only making money when your wheels are turning. And so you have to be driving as long as possible and as often as possible. And that also creates dangers too, because then you get drivers who push to the limit of what they can and are allowed to federally and legally drive. And they'll go around it too. It's getting harder now because of the electronic systems for logging and miling and how they do GPS tracking in some of them now. So it's easier for the companies to manage but it's also and then they do internal cameras in your truck and they make sure they're watching you at all times. So you're the big brother watching over you at these companies. But the reason I brought up Swift is because their moniker of at least what I learned in training was sure wish I finished training
Sure wish I'd finished training.
was what we learned was Swift and that they're drivers because you see them and the trucks that are off the road the most in the most precarious spots are Swift drivers.
If it's a
Um,
messed up accident, it's generally got a Swift truck involved.
yeah, and that's something that I think companies like Swift or people who lobby for companies like Swift have the power to make it safer. But like you said, Wendy, they choose not to. Um, Can you talk about some of the groups that you know of and that would be helpful for maybe people to go check out if they want to get involved or support? Is what groups do you recommend that people look into?
OIDA and I had a rough part because they're a very conservative organization. They're run by a board, and I wasn't. I didn't, me. I mean, look at my shirt. I didn't really portray what they wanted in
Yeah.
the writer. So, in light of that, I I can't help but say, or regardless of that, I can't help but say, but those people do good work. They are advocating. They are don't get insurance from them for fuck's sake, but do try to support um their ideas, or at least follow along with what they're doing, because there are other just that alone, they at least give you uh the details. A lot of
Yeah.
things in trucking are obfuscated. Trucking laws are written in ways that you wouldn't even know it was about a truck. And they're very good at letting you know, hey, this is coming up. And they do this on purpose because they want to do this. And
Yeah.
so I'm gonna have to advocate for them because they do give that kind of information. They have one particular writer, his name is Tyson Fisher. If you can follow Tyson, you'll probably follow the pulse of the trucking industry. In Overdrive magazine, Todd Dills is the one. They're very, very good at um, just really giving good information. As far as other groups, there are many. But again, they've split off into these kind of like the Mormons. They got
Hmm.
together and they had this idea. And then they just split off into all these weird little sects they just have these odd ideas and they don't focus on, one thing. Um, I know putting veterans in trucks is a big deal,
Yeah.
and I would prefer it to not be a disservice to them. And that was kind of a big deal with OIDA, and I believe in that 100%.
Yeah.
I That's
I was
something
one
that
of those veterans that was put in a truck. My training I got through the Army. As part of my exit training, I actually
yeah,
opted to do the CDL. I was hoping to do a HVAC apprenticeship, but they were full. And CDL was available and it was a good option. And it wasn't marketed as this is a disgraceful choice. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about is it was marketed really well to us as, hey, this is a really good option. You could make really good
yeah.
money depending on what companies you go to. It was Werner that I was thinking of,
Oh
is
yeah,
the
Warner,
other
they're not
big
great.
one. And CR England is another one
Oh
that
Lord,
preys
CRE.
on their preys on their drivers. And when I say prey, I mean they prey on their drivers by making them owner operators and then
Yes,
giving them really bad licensing or deals and contracts where when you're just about to own your truck, they either siphon your hours down to almost zero or they make it so that you're so far in debt that you can't actually ever own your truck.
that's a
Um,
very good point. Swift is very bad about this too. They will get a driver out, and this is their idea of investing in their driver.
yeah.
So they'll get a driver out there, they'll get them going, they'll get them through their first 6 months, and they'll say, hey, you know what? If they stick with it, hey, you could own your own truck. It would be great. We're going to lease it to you.
Mhm.
And here's your lease to own truck. So the payment on this lease to own truck is generally so exorbitant that you must stay on the road 24/7. And you can still only be dispatched by Swift, even though you own your truck. So if
Yeah.
decided to take, well, you can't. And then at the end of these leases, when you do finally get there, and I've known of maybe, God, I can say maybe two people in all the time that I've been involved in trucking that made it through a lease. There's a balloon payment at the end. And the balloon payment is generally more than what they can afford, or they've saved, or they haven't prepared for it. I mean, I'm sure they know about it from the beginning, but you're not thinking about that when you're out there. I got to make $3,000 this week, or they're going to take my truck. And, you know, It's just a mind fuck, and it's terrible. And then if you don't complete your lease, they take your truck away from you, and they've got another driver in that seat doing the same damn thing 2 days later. They clean that bitch out, put it through the wash, and it's gone again. So they don't want you to succeed in these endeavors. But they make it seem like this is your next step. Here's your next step, son. You're a really good driver. And we're
Yeah.
gonna lease your truck because we love you. No, no, no. That's not the case. It's a horrible.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And it was actually one of the things that I am most thankful that my trainers at the CDL course I was at talked about. They talked about these things specifically, not because they were required to, but I think because they had Army folks and veterans there and they were trying to set as high of a standard as they could, was they actively discouraged you from applying to companies like CRE or Swift or Werner unless you had to, unless it was a
Right.
last resort. And unless you were like single, but you don't do it as an owner operator. It was always, if you do it, you have to find a way not to be an owner operator because they're gonna kill you on that payment, and
It's
you
a
may as well
racket.
just buy your own truck instead. Like,
Not to mention that you're paying for all your own fuel and all of your own repairs on their
and
truck.
food. Yep.
Yeah, and food. If you're lucky enough to have enough left over for that, you know as well as I do, the truck gets paid first. The driver doesn't get paid. When you're an owner
No,
operator, you don't pay yourself. You pay the truck.
you have to.
The
You
truck is
have to
an
pay the truck
entity.
first. Yeah.
Yes.
You'll see a lot of these people who are owner operators and their trucks are little RVs basically in
Yeah.
a cabin because they have to. That's literally their home
Yeah.
90% of the year. Like truck
Sure.
drivers, if they're lucky, can take a couple months off. Like if you're really lucky and you're an owner operator on your own and you own your vehicle and you know how to manage your money really well and you do like you know how to get the right routes and you know the right people, yeah, you might be able to take a vacation. But that's not the majority of truck drivers. Like they're working their asses off. Do you think it might be beneficial to have a true federal union for truckers that could organize in a much more progressive way that isn't based on,
Then Teamsters?
yeah, no, getting the Teamsters out of it because the Teamsters are kind of like, they're kind of iffy at times. I think the thing is, I think our old unions have become part of the problem. They've become
Absolutely.
part of the institutional problem. And it's time we make new unions where, because I don't think truckers are truly being represented. The Teamsters are a union for too many trucking groups.
That's true.
Do you think it would be beneficial if we more micro organized in trucking to balloon outward?
Absolutely. And to that note, trucking has many, many, many niche varieties. Depending on what your niche is, you might be able to be a member of another union. Stage handlers, these kind of people that, there are many, many unions. So the idea of having a blanket union for trucking is a nice idea, but I doubt that will ever come to fruition. I don't think there's any entity powerful enough to pull that off. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No, I totally agree. Do you think the right to work states are part of like in terms of those policies where you don't have collective bargaining power? Do you think those are inhibiting the formation or the expansion of quality unions?
Well, that's their job. I mean, that's what they want. I
That
mean,
was
seriously.
basically a rhetorical
Yeah.
question, but thank you for answering it.
No, I mean, that is their job. I mean, literally, they don't want that. And it's, I've always been a big believer in unions. I just, but what you are saying speaks the truth. The older unions are steeped and they will not progress. They will not
No.
progress. And they will not give. And you can't. you can't not negotiate and just say, hey, we're just going to take everybody because, GM did that here and we no longer have a GM plant. So, there's that
You
you
get what you
can't,
get.
well, we're not, this isn't post war
Yeah.
America. This is a place where people can do other things and there's a lot out there available. And there's a lot more people too. So I would love to see that. More than anything, I would just like to see them get organized in any kind of cohesive way. And you just, we've come close, and you will find key little pet issues like that they always always want to work towards. Parking is a hideous issue, and I don't even think we have time to go into that. Um, but
No, we could
do
spend
know
some.
that.
I want to spend some more shows on this, though. I'd love to have you back.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
because we do have a hard stop here in a couple minutes because I've got Dean Blundell coming on next
Right on.
for
So
another
real
show.
quick,
Yeah.
tell me your craziest haul. Where's the craziest place you went?
Oh, the craziest place I went. Oh, that's a tough one. Okay. Craziest place I went was actually while I was a propane delivery driver. Um, So when I was first driving, I worked for I don't remember the name of the company. It was a propane company. The funny thing was that they were actually unionizing while I was there. And like I was getting ready to like jump in and be part of that. The company was threatening the unionized guys, but I was getting ready to jump in on that because they made more money. Because the union, when you
Sure.
work in a union and you collect together and you actually have a local union that works and isn't steeped in all this old age politics, they actually do shit for their people. So that's one of the hearts I want to get at is like local organizing. That's what we want to do. But the craziest thing I ever did while it was hauling propane, obviously, um, is I went out to it was on the peninsula in Washington State. So it was in the Olympic National Park.
Hmm.
Because basically the entire peninsula of Washington is the Olympic National Park
Yeah.
or forest. I had zero cell service, and the house didn't appear on GPS. I had an address and I had a rough guess of where it was supposed to be. So the house didn't appear on GPS. I had to turn down this road that turned into a dirt road. Halfway through, it forked, and I had to choose which way to fucking fork because the directions didn't tell me. I
There
was
was no
lucky in
troll.
there was nothing, no troll on the road to be like, this is the way you need to
This is the
go.
way.
There were no like wooden signs saying murder you here, go this way. And so I chose the left path. I was like, it's either left or right. So I went left. And I was like, it curved down this fucking road. There was the house. There was the driveway to the house. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There was the driveway to the house. After going like 2.5 miles down this road, zero cell service. Like it was before the time when satellites could pick up your cell, like
Sure.
Elon does now. So you don't even get the E911 shit. Like I couldn't call anything or anybody. Get to the driveway. I have to figure out how to turn around first because it's a one
Yeah.
vehicle wide road. Their driveway is two switchbacks on an angle about like, well, it was like a 30-degree slope. And so I went up it. I got far enough up. I ended up backing up the driveway, like like half a mile of backing up and turning up this driveway. I got
Blindside
far
back
enough
half
up.
a mile.
Yeah, it was the fucking worst. And like I blindside backed into some interesting spots with a semi truck. Those were fun though. This one, I got to the tipping point and like propane trucks have a um leveler on them or a leveling sensor on them that shows you how far tipped you are. And if you're too far past, if you go past that angle, you're not allowed to park there. Like as a driver, like you should not park there because your truck will flip and fall over. I was on the fucking line
Oof.
and I had to pull this hose like like as far out as I fucking could to get this person's tank. I still couldn't reach it. I got
Oh,
up their driveway as far as I could, and I couldn't reach their tank, and I walked the rest of the way up, and I'm like, sorry, I can't deliver to you. Like, your driveway is too unsafe. And they were not happy, but I left.
I don't blame you.
Not
Save
long
your own
after
ass.
that, not long after that, though, this is why it gets even more wild, is the next stop was on the way back. There was this person up another fucking dirt road, because, everybody with propane tanks lives on dirt roads on the side of a
Yeah.
mountain, apparently. They had a horseshoe driveway, big, big horseshoe driveway, dirt driveway, easy, great. What I didn't know was the entrance to that I was going to back into, because I didn't realize it was a horseshoe driveway, but the entrance I was backing into, the side of it had a divot where they had just pulled out a tree trunk, and my axle went into it, and I got stuck, and I sat there. I was done my day at 13 and a half hours. And because I had to sit there until a tow truck came and lifted my propane truck out of the hole.
That's
It was
insane.
it was so stupid.
That's insane.
After
The
that, I was like,
things.
I'm fucking done. I'm done. I have kids at home. I'm done.
Yeah. I don't want to die like this. So
Okay.
next time,
I need to hear your husband, yours and your husband's craziest story
well,
too.
I think that my most personal, and we'll talk more about it later, was
Yeah.
the caves. If anyone's ever delivered to the caves, and I think it's Missouri or Kansas, it's right there. There are caves. There are caves underground that you drive your fucking truck into, and you deliver. So as we're
Well, I have
sitting
another one
outside of the
about a
caves,
cave that I want to tell you about, but it was inside
this
a building.
this should have been our indicator. We're sitting
Hmm.
outside of the caves. We're waiting. He's looking to see whatever he's got. Talking to the dispatch. Where am I going? This is a cave. Guy's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I look over. There's a guy in another truck next to us. He's got his hood up. And of course, George, he's a good trucker. He goes over and he says, "Hey, do you need any help?" The like guy said, "Hell no, I don't need any help. I ain't about to take my ass in that cave. They can bring somebody to repower this shit." And repower means they're gonna you have somebody else hook up to it. And he's like, "I ain't about to do that. That's
I'm getting
crazy.
this
That's a
shit.
cave."
I'm out. I'm dropping this trailer. I'm out.
We
Yep.
should have known. And then it ended up being just a nightmare because they were doing construction in the cave of all
Of
places,
fucking
road
course, and they won't
construction
close
in
it.
the fucking cave.
Yep. And they won't close it either. They can't close those
No.
things. Gotta move freight. Gotta move
Well,
freight.
I think it's pharmaceuticals that they keep down there. It's a constant temperature. It's something having to do
Oh,
with
that would
pharmaceuticals.
make sense.
Yeah. And
I've
cheese.
done
I know cheese goes
pharmaceutical.
down there.
Next time we talk, we'll talk about pharmaceutical unloading, because local pickup and delivery drivers have to break that pallet down from the entire truck and fucking load out into squared like spots. We did it for Permanente for their pharmaceuticals. We literally laid shit out like box by box, like 25 pallets. I was there for like 6 hours one day, just unloading
That's
one piece of
crazy.
freight. At least I
That's
was
crazy.
paid by the hour and not by the mile.
That's
Um,
better.
so it didn't kill me. All
I
right,
have
Wendy.
super enjoyed this.
Me
I
too.
hope everybody else has. I don't know. Maybe I just babble, but yeah, man,
Yeah, who cares? We had a great time.
it's
I
been a
love you,
minute.
audience. I do care. I do care. But I would love to have this, keep this conversation going. Another day, you and I will keep in touch.
Yeah.
This was so much fun, and it's been a while since I've been able to talk about trucking, and I loved it. So thank you,
Yeah,
Wendy.
part of me misses it, the other part of me hates it, and that's just how it is with trucking. It's a love-hate.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
agreed.
hey, you have
So
a good day, and I appreciate the
thanks.
time that you gave me today.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved having you
And
on. This
thanks
was
for
so much
everybody that
fun.
followed along. We love you guys.
Yeah, love you guys. Stick with me in 5 minutes. Dean Blundell, Frederick Pogue, and myself are coming on live for Rise with Our Allies. So, as I always say, everybody, let's stop being sick of this shit and let's start doing this shit. Thanks, y'all.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate it.
Bye bye.
Thanks, Wendy.